even from the dog. He is very satisfied. Whatever food you give, he'll not protest. Still, he'll remain faithful. There are so many good qualifications of a dog. So therefore, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, Tumi ta takora tomara kukora balaya janaha more. Kindly accept me as your dog. I shall serve you faithfully. Why? Krishna, say Tomara Krishna Diti Pada. Because Krishna is yours. You can deliver Krishna. Very nice song. Krishna is yours. By your devotional service, you have made Krishna your property. So you can deliver Krishna to me. Therefore, I want to follow you faithfully as a dog. So that was actually, that last part was from a Brahma Samhita lecture Prabhupada gave in 1971. But they neglected to put the quotation marks in there. So then, there's another also. This is the section from the lecture Prabhupada gave. Prahlad Maharaj is devotee. He can ask Krishna the power. Give me such power that along with me, I shall take all of them. And that is Vaishnava. He can do so. Tumi ta takora tomara kukora baliya janaha more. Therefore, we have to become a dog to Vaishnava. Chadiya Vaishnava Seva Nishtara Payeche Keba. Without serving Vaishnava, nobody can be delivered. Because he is so merciful, he can demand to Krishna, please, on my sake, please excuse me. I'll take him with me. So Krishna grants him. All right, you take them. That's from a lecture Prabhupada gave on Bhagavatam 7.9.43. So then now this is Mataji speaking again. Nanda Devi Dasi came to Vrindavan to leave her body, but it took 20 years for her to leave. Because of her disease, she could not chant properly, finish her rounds, or go to the temple. Just before she left her body, she had a vision. She was walking on the path back to Godhead, and Srila Prabhupada was walking next to her. This is her vision. Okay? On both sides of the path were people criticizing her, saying things like, she didn't chant her rounds properly. She is a woman, she can't go back to Godhead. She didn't go to the temple regularly. But then, Srila Prabhupada turned to the people and said, it's okay, she's with me. Then the people on both sides of the path started praising her. So even though we may not be qualified, we are with Srila Prabhupada. We are following him, serving him. Therefore, we can all go back to Godhead. So we must always stay with Srila Prabhupada, and he will take us with him back to Krishna, back to Goloka Vrindavan. Beautiful. So as I said, I hope that kind of like sets the mood. There was another offering in here, written by a godbrother of mine, which really helped me, gave me great relief. And I'll read. So he's relating an anecdote or something that happened back in the early 70s. Rabindra Sarup was getting his PhD, so he invited this professor, Professor Yadav, to come meet Prabhupada. And he brings students, and he brought his students. So this man was a bit puffed up, and he had a bad attitude, and it was apparent that he was going to try to make Prabhupada look bad, but Prabhupada couldn't do it. Anyway, so what happened was he asked Prabhupada a question: what is your understanding of Dharma? And Prabhupada said, you're a teacher, what is your understanding of Dharma? And then the man said, no, I'm asking you. And Prabhupada said, no, I'm not your servant, It went back and forth a little bit. And finally Prabhupada said to Swarup Damodar, he said, he's a teacher, and he doesn't know. Because the man eventually said, I don't know. So Prabhupada turned to Swarup Damodar and said, he's a teacher, and he says he doesn't know. What does that mean? And then Swarup Damodar just perked right and said, he's a cheater, Prabhupada. And then Prabhupada looked at the man and said, he's calling you a cheater. What do you have to say? What are you going to do? Like that. Anyway, it went back and forth, and it got the man got kind of agitated, and it started getting uncomfortable. And Brahmananda was observing the whole thing, or maybe somebody went to get him, and he comes barging in the door there, big Brahmananda, and he says, "Excuse me, sir, I think you're going to have to leave." And the man said, "Well, we're going to." He said, "No, now." And I can't remember if he actually physically escorted him out of there or not, but it was very intense. It became very intense. Anyway, now I'm going to read from this. Rabindra Swarup Prabhu then mentioned that some time later he met the same professor in Philadelphia. The professor eagerly inquired about Prabhupada. When Rabindra Swarup updated him, Professor Yadav spontaneously exclaimed, "Your guru saved me," and proceeded to explain that despite being born in an exalted family, he had become involved in all kinds of degraded activities. And as I said, it was Dr. Yadav. He was born in some Brahmin family or whatever. But upon meeting Prabhupada, his strong words shook him out of his illusion and were instrumental in bringing him back to an appreciation of Bhagavad Dharma, his roots. Then he then profusely thanked Rabindra Swarup for inviting him for the darshan. So he really got chastised heavily and practically physically escorted, but he was eventually he was grateful. We had a golden opportunity to learn from this encounter. This is Vishnu Gada speaking. It demonstrated to us that you were always fully transcendental, Prabhupada, and acting for a person's ultimate benefit. So that's an important thing. That Prabhupada was always fully transcendental and acting for a person's ultimate benefit, even when we may not understand how. Although you are usually cordial, charming, and attentive host, when the opportunity arose to elevate someone in Krishna consciousness, that purpose was paramount. It was even more important than adhering to the rules of etiquette. The incident reminded us of your commentary when Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya asked Lord Chaitanya why Sripad Ishvarapuri kept Govinda, a person from a Sudra background, as a disciple. You noted, an authorized spiritual master is as good as Hari, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If Hari is free to act as he likes, the empowered spiritual master is also free. As Hari is not subject to the criticism of mundane rules and regulations, the spiritual master is also not subjected. Like Narada Muni cursing the sons of Kuvera to extract them from their intoxicated lifestyle, facilitating their meeting with Lord Damodar, your strong words brought the professor to his right consciousness. Trying to understand this incident also enhanced our faith by showing us that even in those rare instances where it may appear on the surface that your activities are questionable, when the full picture is revealed and understood, it is apparent that you have always been acting on the transcendental plane, above the material modes of nature. You are the pure emissary of Lord Chaitanya. Lord Krishna instructs in Bhagavad Gita that he descends in every millennium to deliver the sadhus and annihilate the miscreants. He delivers the devotees by displaying his wonderful pastimes. Thank you, Srila Prabhupada, for doing exactly the same. So the reason as I started off by saying he's actually, Vishnu Gada is a god brother, my very good friend of mine. It was like a mentor when I first joined. And as I said, reading that really gave me a lot of relief, because I had an instance where my second initiation, Prabhupada, it was 1976, and there was like about 13 or 15, it was a very big initiation. And so we all were sitting outside Prabhupada's room in the conch, was it, the first building where Prabhupada had his room. Is it the conch building, or I can't remember. Anyway, so one by one devotees were going in. So when the devotee would come out, the other devotees said, "Well, what happened? Well, Prabhupada asked me what my service was. Prabhupada asked me what my father did. He made conversation and so I was thinking, oh yeah, this is going to be great. I'm going to go in there. I'm going to tell Prabhupada. Prabhupada's going to ask me, what's your service? I'm going to say, I'm a Prabhupada. I distribute your books. And he's going to ask me, what does your father do? My father's a manager of an engineering company. I was feeling like Prabhupada's going to really be impressed by me. Anyway, so they finally called me in there, and I kneeled down next to Prabhupada, like, this close. And Prabhupada put the thread on, and then he said, okay. Now, he didn't ask me any questions about myself or what I did or anything like that. He just said, okay, now watch. And he held out his hand, and he was showing me how to count the mantras. So he went like that, and he said, okay, now you do it. So I just, I saw Prabhupada, I just seen him, I was watching him doing it, I said, okay. And he went, no. watch again. Oh, okay. I thought I got it right, but anyway, he did it again. And then he said, now you do it. I said, okay. And he looked at me and said, what are you, stupid? Like that. I mean, just like, really like that. And I didn't know what to do. I just kind of had like a meltdown, because that was the first time I was ever one-on-one, with Prabhupada. And I just thought, I just had to respond, I thought, and I said, Prabhupada, I'm so sorry. I guess I'm just very nervous. This is the first time I've ever been in your personal presence, and I guess I'm just so nervous I can't even think straight. Please show me one more time. I promise I'll pay really good, careful attention. I'll get it right. So he did it a third time, and I did it, and he didn't say anything. So I guess I got it right. And he said, okay, now repeat after me. Om, Om. And he went word by word. He went through the first two mantras of the Gayatri mantra, and he got to about halfway through the third mantra, and then he went like this. And his servant was Pushta Krishna Swami at the time. It's not a big room, I was here, Prabhupada was sitting there, and he was approximately, let's say, where Satchidananda is, not very far away, but he went like that. And then Pushta Krishna from across the room goes to me, he says, you can leave now. And I went, but because Prabhupada didn't speak to me, he spoke to me, so I said, but Prabhupada hasn't finished. And he said, no, I'm sorry, he's indicated he's finished. And so I just went, oh, okay. So I paid my obeisances and I just kind of backed out, crawled out backwards. And I never told anybody about that for 18 years. The first person I shared that incident with, because I was just like, wow, I don't know, it was like heavy. But Tamal Krishna Maharaj, in 1994, I was visiting him in Dallas, and he asked me, did I ever have any association with Prabhupada? And I said, well, yeah. And he said, well, what was it? So I described the whole thing to him. He laughed, and he said, oh, that's special mercy. When you get chastised like that by the spiritual master, that's special mercy. And I believed him, obviously, but when I read this, it made me feel a lot better that, here he's kind of confirming that Prabhupada's transcendental. I can't remember the place where these are. He said, yeah, always fully transcendental and acting for the person's ultimate benefit, even when we may not understand how. I took it like that. But it still was kind of like, ugh. But anyway, reading this made me feel a lot better. So that's all I have to say. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So, Mother Shama Priya, are you ready to say something? Yeah, everybody could, 5 minutes, that's good.
Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nivasesha Sunyavadi Pasta Cha Desatarane Manchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Thank you for those beautiful stories, Prabhupada. That was amazing. Thank you, Srila Prabhupada, for everything that you've given us. I think it's something that's revealed over the years. We know in the beginning that he's giving us something big, but as the years go on, we understand that it's bigger and bigger and deeper, and we start to explore those depths. And he gave us something so important. He gave us the key. We're all trapped in the material world, and Srila Prabhupada has handed us the key through his teachings, in his books, all the beautiful songs that we have to sing. They're all about how we're going to get out of this material world and return to our original position, our soul position as servant of Krishna, out of the misery, the darkness, the struggle, the growing old, this endless repetition of all the things that trouble us. To go to the place of light. This is what Srila Prabhupada has given us. Beautiful, beautiful world where we really belong, where the soul finds complete expansion and beauty and light, ever satisfied, ever more satisfied. Quite the opposite of where we are now. And this is Srila Prabhupada's gift to us. Oh, thank you, Srila Prabhupada. It's the most amazing thing. And all we have to do is to dive in deep. There's so much richness, there's so much knowledge that just opens our perception to something so big and so beautiful. We're just locked in some tight little nutshell. We're struggling within this body, struggling within the material world. But there's a whole unlimited creation which we belong to. And Prabhupada's come and given us that message. So thank you, Srila Prabhupada. And thank you. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
I'm not used to sitting in this. Hare Krishna. My name is Srila, and I was initiated in Hawaii in 1974, and I was 24 years old at the time. So just after 2 or 3 weeks of being in the temple, there were some rumors going around that Srila Prabhupada was going to be coming to the temple and staying for a couple of weeks, which was very exciting to hear. So after about another week or a week and a half, there were 2 sannyasis that came to the temple, so they could prepare the temple for Prabhupada's arrival. Guru Kripa Maharaj and Yasodananda Maharaj were the 2 sannyasis that came. After about a week of the sannyasi's arrival, Guru Kripa came up to me and he says, Yasodhara, I need you to do me a favor. He says, I have a plumber upstairs in Prabhupada's room, and he's repairing the toilet. He says, and Prabhupada is also up there. He's out on the balcony. He's getting a massage. He says, I want you to go up there and keep an eye on the plumber. Just keep an eye on him. Jai Maharaj, So I go up there, and what the plumber found was he found the tree twigs that were stuck in the toilet, because Srila Prabhupada used to use twigs to clean his teeth with. You remember, right, I guess? You have a smile on your face. Okay, so the problem was there was one devotee that would go into Prabhupada's room every day to clean his room. The mistake that he made was he would every day now, he would take these twigs that he would find and he would flush them in the toilet. And that was the problem. That's what you can't do. That's what the plumber found. So anyway, the plumber hands me the bill, and he leaves. And I'm standing there and I'm thinking to myself, my head was starting to get bigger and bigger. Because I started thinking, oh, I get to go out on the balcony and tell Srila Prabhupada personally that the toilet's fixed. So anyway, 24 and about as naive as can be. But anyway, I go out there on the balcony, and it was amazing. Srila Prabhupada was sitting there with nothing on but his gamsha and his beads and his Brahmin thread. He's sitting there, and Shrudakirti is standing behind him, massaging his shoulders. It was a picture that I'll never forget. So anyway, I paid my obeisances, and I said, Srila Prabhupada, the toilet is fixed, like that. And Prabhupada didn't even look at me, didn't even smile. He just goes, Jai. And then he says, how do you know it is fixed? And that really puzzled me. I didn't understand. Why would he ask that? I was just in there with the plumber, and I'm holding the bill in my hand, so I was a little, So I said, well, Srila Prabhupada, the plumber told me it was fixed. He didn't shake his head, but he didn't look at me, and he just said, so? And that really threw me. So? What does he mean by that? And all of a sudden I could feel my face getting into like contortions, like I'm kind of looking like that, So I'm looking at Srila Prabhupada, and then I look up at Shrudakirti. Shrudakirti's laughing. He's not really laughing, but he had a big grin on his face. And I could see all the teeth in his, I could see all of his teeth. And I looked back down at Srila Prabhupada, and I'm looking up at Shrudakirti. Then I looked back down at Srila Prabhupada, and I thought, oh. I said to Srila Prabhupada, I'll check it myself. Prabhupada's Jai. So, offer my obeisances, I leave the balcony, I get into his room, and I go running across the room. Now, all I had to do was go into the bathroom and flush the toilet to see if it ran. But I was so nervous from meeting Srila Prabhupada face to face like that. I was so nervous, my brain was scrambling, and I'm thinking, oh, I need something to put down the toilet. I don't know why I was thinking like that. But I ran through his room, ran down the stairs, I'm looking around. I go into the kitchen, and I'm looking around, and there was a pan on the shelf, and this is a long time ago, so I'm thinking it was like chapati dough. So I grabbed some out of the pan. Yeah, 24-year-old. And I go running up the stairs. I go running through the bedroom, his Prabhupada's quarters, into the bathroom. I chant Hare Krishna, drop it in there, and flush it. It goes down. So I go back out onto the balcony. I said, Srila Prabhupada, the toilet is fixed. I checked it myself. Prabhupada said, Jai. So I start to leave. The balcony. And all of a sudden Prabhupada says, how did you check it? I couldn't believe it. I had to explain everything to him again, And then I looked like maybe I got a little nod of approval there. And he said, Jai. But I want to just say one more thing. I was a brand new devotee when I first met Srila Prabhupada. And in fact, it was just like 4 months earlier that I had even met devotees for the first time. So, needless to say, I had very little understanding of the importance or the significance of that meeting with Srila Prabhupada. And it wasn't until years later that I realized that Srila Prabhupada wasn't talking to me that morning about repairing a toilet. Srila Prabhupada was teaching me Bhakti Yoga. Thank you, Srila Prabhupada. Jai.
Please accept my humble obeisances, Srila Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunivadi Paschacha Deshatarine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimati Vera Bahu Prabhariji Namine Shri Shri Rindat Taviraya Padapankajadayine Prabhupada Anuvada Nama Shivarabhava. Well, Savas Prabhu invited me to write the Vyasa-Puja offering on behalf of New Dwarka. And I didn't write it so well, and I showed it to my Guru Maharaj, and he helped write it. So I wanted to make sure that everyone understands that he was my co-author and editor. Dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to your divine grace. I was requested to write your Vyasa-Puja offering on behalf of the New Dwarka Temple. After several tries yesterday when I went out on book distribution, what I had wanted to say became very clear. So much becomes clear when there is your book distribution. Having the opportunity to present your Bhaktivedanta translations and purports to the Bhagavad Gita to the students at the colleges is a very rich and satisfying experience. They seem to be dismayed about what is going on in the world. It is very easy to see that the quality of their lives is not the same quality as the lives of young people 50 years ago. Everything you predicted is coming true. You predicted that the American people would lose all their pious merit because they have thrown out God and they've embraced science for the purpose of improving their sense gratification. You predicted an increasing lack of protection of the weaker citizens, such as old men, women, young people, and animals. Today's young people cannot expect stability, not from the economy, not from their leaders, their employers, not even from the weather. I feel relieved and grateful when your beautiful Bhagavad Gita is placed in their hands, or it goes into their homes. Even if they do not look at it for years, there is no better insurance for their future. Evidently, other distributors feel the same way because so many of your transcendental books have been distributed. The amount more than triples the amount distributed when you were physically present. Currently, entire sets of Srimad Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita are received by delighted people every day. Millions of your books are warehoused for this purpose all over the world. ISKCON, we had to get an extra warehouse in this North American BBT just to house all the sets of books and the stacks of books because the volume of the amount of books that are going out is quadrupled. If evidently other distributors feel the same way, okay, I'm sorry. Millions of your books are warehoused for this purpose. ISKCON educational institutions teaching Bhakti Shastra and Bhakti Baba classes, as well as massive prasadam distribution programs, serve tens of thousands of people daily on this planet. All of this is due to the expertise of your disciples and grand disciples in a truly grand cooperative effort. When I first became a devotee, just after your departure, I witnessed how the initial enthusiasm in your Krishna consciousness movement fell into some chaos and lack of clarity. Then a fire of purified and refined feelings of love and undeniable gratitude for your divine grace burned up all the confusion and the hesitancy. The result, in our community, we have seen amazing expertise in handling all forms of deviation with single-minded attention to your instructions at any cost. I think this must have happened all over the world, in every temple, because we see the same results are everywhere. This Vyavasayatmika Buddhi determination has endowed us with an atmosphere for beautiful, expansive temple communities and congregations at hundreds of locations. As you envisioned for your devotees, the quality of our lives is ever increasingly enhanced. In your ISKCON, we are experiencing an ongoing evolution of Vaishnava culture. Kirtan, bhajan, dance, art, design, architecture, festivals, education and shastra, a growing enthusiastic congregation, the implementation of the social divisions, vegetarian prasadam, and Vaishnav dress. It should be mentioned that the opportunity in your ISKCON for deity worship is unique in the world of bhakti. Your instruction to worship and decorate the deities with great attention as gorgeously as possible is a great challenge as well as an enthralling pleasure. And how did we learn all this? All of this has come to us because your most loyal devotees have spent their lives training us in the understanding of what they learned from you. For example, over and over again, I have seen your disciples at New Dwarka train a person who falls away, just in hope that they will someday, somehow or other, become attached to Krishna's devotional service again. Do your disciples turn their attention anywhere else? No. That is because they are fully committed to you. The loyalty and love your disciples have for you is rarely found anywhere. What is the effect? We get the shelter of your lotus feet and become sane, even full of joy. We dance and we chant, and we are saved from material suffering. The most fearsome danger of repeated birth and death is avoided if we can begin to appreciate this loyalty and love coming to us through you and the entire disciplic succession. Srila Prabhupada, you had no opportunity like we do to pick up a mridanga or books and go to a safe legal location to do Sankirtan or Harinam. You didn't have a harmonium or legal status or strong health or experienced followers. You wrote back to India many letters that reveal your helplessness to get support and to get paraphernalia. Yet because you loved Krishna and his parts and parcels more than your own life, because the order of your spiritual master was your only priority, you did not waver or bend. For an elderly person to be far away from his homeland, surrounded only by confused young people, in the severe New York weather with scarce finances, often poor accommodations, and then come out of it absolutely undeterred, can only be seen as supernatural. You are simply Krishna natural. In your classic Bhaktivedanta purport to Bhagavad Gita 1875, you explain the Krishna supernatural ability that empowered you to directly deliver Krishna consciousness to others. Quote, Vyas was the spiritual master of Sanjay, and Sanjay admits that it is by Vyas' mercy that he could understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This means that one has to understand Krishna not directly, but by the medium of the spiritual master. The spiritual master is a transparent medium, although it is true that the experience is still direct. This is the mystery of the disciplic succession, unquote. This explains how you are continuing to give Krishna to others to this day and eternally. We offer our humble obeisances to your divine grace who loves Krishna so perfectly. We can only offer our respects to you and try to follow and serve you in constant debt for having gotten the chance to appreciate your perfect love for Krishna. Your humble servants at New Dwarka. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much to all the Prabhupada disciples who allowed me to write this offering and all the devotees.
You ready? Okay. You want to introduce it? Or?
just going to pass out the remainder of our souvenir for the day. If anyone reads books, this is your Srila Prabhupada Vyasa-Puja souvenir bookmark. You got one, all right. Hare Krishna. So, Hare Krishna, all glory to Srila Prabhupada. So, we're going to have a presentation from the memory series, which are stories about Srila Prabhupada, and these are focused on Prabhupada's 26 qualities of a Vaishnava. These are selections from the memory series that focuses on this one particular quality, which we will see shortly. And these are examples of Prabhupada's qualities as exhibited or witnessed by Srila Prabhupada's disciples. First segment here is 12 minutes long. Does anyone know how to turn the lights off besides Shamarari? Thank you. So I think, so we'll have, I think, 2 screenings, maybe 3 within the 2-hour program this morning. Just as a prelude to those, we have a Vyasa-Puja special where, Mahashakti, can you look at the books behind you? There's 3 of them. Okay, Mahashakti is kindly holding up 3 books, those 2, but there's a 3rd one there. The latest book that I've published is volume 6 in the memory series, which are transcriptions of these testimonials that I've collected over the last 35 years. These are the stories that you can read, obviously, afterwards. And the special today is to buy just volume 6 for $20 only. I will throw in for free volume 4 and 5. So that's a 1-year special that we have on Vyasa-Puja. I only have actually 7 to give away at that deal. Okay, thank you. Hare Krishna. So I think we're ready. Oh, let's bring the microphone over. Oh, okay. So you're going to control the volume here? Yeah. Any other questions before we start? Okay, so enjoy the memories. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. If you can't see over here on the side of the temple, you can move over so you can see the full screen. Can you see? Maheshwar, can you see this full screen?
And in the lecture that he gave, I don't remember most of the lecture, but the one line he spoke, which was really interesting, he said, "This is a movement for the living entity." And I was thinking how, generally we talk about saving the human beings, but he was, describing the movement as a movement for all living entities. So that really struck me.
Somehow or other, and I'm never quite sure how it happened, he and I ended up alone in the room. And it was Srila Prabhupada's room. He always had a coffee table, which he used as a desk, because he liked to sit on the floor. And he had an armoire next to it, a steel cabinet, such as he used to have in India. And in it, he used to keep his correspondence and books and things like that. And Srila Prabhupada was behind the desk, And he was showing me, incidentally to doing something else, how he would open up an envelope with a letter opener and then use the envelope for his reply, and then to save paper and for his first draft, and then he'd draft it out again onto the letter when he had it down the way he wanted it. And somehow he had asked me to do something, and in the end, I ended up behind his desk, and he ended up on the other side. I was so on my toes and alarmed by the experience of being alone with Prabhupada. It was just like being with Queen Elizabeth or Indra or something of that sort, all alone. And he's like, oh my God, what am I going to do now? I have no instruction. I don't even know what to say, because I wasn't just initiated. And I had, been a part of the Hidashri. I was still sort of psychedelicizing a little bit. And Srila Prabhupada was standing there, and I'm sitting there totally mortified, wringing my hands and squirming my toes and wondering what to do next, and not wanting to leave by any means, but not knowing what to do if I stayed. Then Srila Prabhupada looked at me and said, we should always be considering what is my duty, he said. And I'm thinking, duty, okay. And I've been hearing impaired since I was young, and I didn't know that. And it's only the last few years I got hearing aids. So I didn't have any hearing aids. So what to speak of Prabhupada's accent and my inability to hear, I was having a hard time understanding, plus the psychedelics residually floating around in my brain cells. So Prabhupada points at this coffee table and says, do you see this ant? And I've been looking very carefully, and I know Srila Prabhupada is the external representative of Super Soul, that when Prabhupada says there's an ant, there's an ant. And I looked at the table, and there was no ant there. And he said, do you see that ant? And I didn't know what he meant. I said, there's no ant. And I said, sort of like yes and no combined. Because I didn't want to say no and appear stupid, to not see the spiritual or whatever ant was there. And I didn't want to say yes and be proven a liar, because I couldn't see the ant and I didn't know where it would be found. So then Srila Prabhupada looked at me intensely, as though that the ant issue now being solved, he wanted to get on to real business, and he said, my duty, he said, is to, my job, he said, is to understand what is my duty to this ant. I said, oh no. I said, not only there's an ant that I can't see, but now I have a duty to it. I said, what am I going to do? I said, somehow, Prabhupada looked at me beseechingly almost, somehow I have to help this ant. He said, and maybe I can chant, and he said, reaches down, he says, maybe I can chant Hare Krishna. Or he went like this, feed it a little prasadam. He said, if we can help one ant become Krishna conscious, then our whole movement is a glorious success. And then I realized it was a pure metaphor. That Prabhupada was aware of my bewilderment is pretty obvious. That he used it to make a point was excellent. And there I was, instructed by the invisible ant to whom I had a duty to feed and to chant, and that if I did so, it was our movement, whole movement was a success.
My parents came to see me at the manor, and Prabhupada was in London, and I'd come back from London to the manor to meet with my parents. I hadn't seen them for about 5 years, and they had never seen me as a devotee. So during the course of the afternoon, I went to look for some prasadam for them, and there was none. I was told, well, we have an early Sunday feast here, and there's nothing left. So I was unable to give them any. Anyway, I took them around the manor, and I explained a bit of the philosophy, etc. They were unfortunate in that they didn't get to see Srila Prabhupada. They were just about to leave, because they had a 4-hour drive home, when Prabhupada came back from London, and he came in through the gate just as we were stood there, and they were, saying goodbye. So they kind of got a glimpse, that was all. Anyway, so afterwards, after they'd gone, I went up to see Srila Prabhupada, and he asked me, well, how did it go with your parents? So I said it was very nice, they were very favorable, and I showed them the deities, and we looked around, and I explained a bit of the philosophy. So then Prabhupada said, did they get prasadam? So they said, oh, well, actually I was told there wasn't any. And Prabhupada said, oh. It was almost like, well, what was the use? If they didn't get prasadam, then the whole trip was basically a failure. So, he put a lot of emphasis on prasadam. It was a very practical way for a person to make advancement in Krishna consciousness.
One big businessman, he came and he was saying, Swamiji, I have this factory here in Delhi and I have that factory in Zonpur, and he gave a list of his things, and then he said, I have all this but I can't sleep. So Prabhupada looks at him and he says, that is why you can't sleep. You give all this to me, then you can peacefully sleep. So then he turns to somebody who was sitting there and he said, I think it was Gopal Krishnaji. He said, take his address. So this man says, no Swamiji, I can come anytime. You can come anytime, but we should also be able to come anytime. Take his address. And then he was ready, so yes. And said, no, Swamiji. Prabhupada said, no, take his address. We will relieve you of your problem. You give some of these things to Krishna, then you will be peaceful. And he was like smashed right there. And he did give his address. He had to.
There was a gentleman who came to see him in Geneva at the tail end of a series of other guests. The other guests had been distinguished VIPs from the United Nations and other organizations. And this man was a very simple, humble person who was had come to the temple a couple of times. And so after all of these kind of high-level conversations, this man comes in and Prabhupada looks at him and says, so, do you have any questions? And the man says, in French, and we translate it, said, no, I heard that you were coming. And I was just so happy to think that I would get to meet you. And so thank you for receiving me. Prabhupada looked at him for a moment like this. And then he said, Yogeshwar, bring my harmonium. On Sadhuta, you play kartal. And he started singing, chanting, Hare Krishna, Hare. And he went on having a small little kirtan there in the room for about 10 minutes, after which the man offered his pranams and thanked Srila Prabhupada and stood up and left. And Prabhupada looked at us with this beautiful smile and said, he was a simple soul, so I knew that he would appreciate. This is the most lovely reciprocation I think I'd ever seen. That he sang for this man because he was a sincere soul.
And my father also asked at that time, he said, why are you so anxious to give everyone your food, even if they don't know anything about your philosophy? And Prabhupada said, do you believe in infection? And my father said, yes. And Prabhupada said, just like if you eat the food of a sick person, you'll be infected with their disease. And in the same way, if you eat the food that Krishna's eaten, you'll be infected with Krishna's disease. So that was really wonderful. And when we walked out of the room, my father looked at me. He said, now I understand why you've joined this movement. This is a genuine holy man. So that was very nice.
During the Nectar of Devotion series in Vrindavan in 1972, when Prabhupada gave the Nectar of Devotion series for 1 month, there was one doubt that was plaguing me because we were putting so much effort into book distribution. But I'd always been taught when I was first joining that the parampara is like a link, a chain. And if you don't have the perfect link, if you're not initiated, you really can't go back to God. And so I had this doubt that we're distributing so many books, but these people will read them, but if they're not initiated, they can't go back to Godhead. So I followed Prabhupada from back Rupa Goswami's Samadhi back into the courtyard. And just before Prabhupada took the steps up onto his courtyard, I presented this question to Prabhupada. I said, we're distributing so many books, but if people aren't initiated, then they can't go back to Godhead. And Prabhupada turned and looked at me right in the eyes. And he said, just by reading my books, they're initiated. And I thought that... another example of compassion, because I thought that was just an incredible example of compassion.
And I remember I asked Nitai, he was a Prabhupada servant at the time, Nitai Prabhu, and then I asked him, did Prabhupada ever say where he's going to be preaching in the next life? And Nitai told me, well, I never heard that question. I could go and ask him right now. So he went right into Prabhupada's room and came out. Prabhupada said, I'm going to preach in the lower planets in the next life. And I was like, completely fazed. So much compassion. This is what struck me most with Prabhupada was his compassion. It's like bottomless. He was like willing to do anything to please Mahaprabhu and to please his spiritual master. When he said, I'm going to preach to the lower planets, I was thinking, how can someone do that? That was really, really, striking.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Judah Karma, yeah. Lights back on, sure. Thank you.
Dear Srila Prabhupada, O topmost servant of God, I have no words to say how great it is this holy day of your appearance in this world with flag of love of God unfurled, summoning every fallen soul to attain life's very highest goal of endless loving service pure, the result of which we can be sure will be our own instantiation in our natural situation, full of nothing but this, eternality, knowledge, and bliss, with by your grace each dasi or das absorbed in a nectarian ras, with the all-attractive personality, Krishna, the ultimate reality, who as Chaitya Guru in the heart guides us to you who take the part of his external representative to show us how a devotee should live. You are Krishna's servant, most confidential. To see or hear you is divinely providential. You show the way, instruct, and initiate, even now through your disciples who demonstrate that if one follows your order and doesn't deviate, Krishna consciousness will continue to expand in every town and village and every land. This offering is very far from perfection. There are ample causes for its rejection. Nevertheless, please hear my plea and give your undeserved mercy to me by accepting from these lines the best and ignoring and excusing all the rest. Forever may you remain my boss, your servant Druta Karma Das.
Thank you, Judah Krapa. So our next speaker will be Mother Jagajanani.
Hare Krishna. Dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to you, Srila Prabhupada, for always giving us shelter in this world of chaos. You have given each of us an opportunity to develop our relationship with your beloved Radha and Krishna. This is inconceivable to me, but I am truly grateful and hopeful that I take full advantage of all that you are offering us. You have given us so much, Srila Prabhupada, and although I am unable to fully reciprocate, I offer you all my love and gratitude forever. Any good fortune I have been given in this life has come directly from you, dearest Srila Prabhupada. I sincerely beg to always try harder and always remain at your divine lotus feet. Your daughter and servant, Jagajanani Dasi.
Thank you, Mata. Our next speaker will be Satyanarayan Prabhu, BBT trustee for Far East and Middle East books.
Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminita Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharane Nirvisesha Shinivari Paschatya Shitarne. Dear Srila Prabhupada, you have given all of us such wonderful, relishable devotional services to perform for Krishna's happiness and for our eternal benefit. I beg to thank you once again for the miraculous service you gave me, where I'm so often somehow allowed to see your astounding mercy miracles happening again and again. For example, recently in Bahrain, an island nation in the Persian Gulf, connected by a bridge to Saudi Arabia, the king of that nation asked for our books, your books, in Arabic. He was so interested in getting them that he created a royal drawer in his desk at his palace in anticipation of receiving them. Bahrain, as a small nation, is respected throughout the Muslim world, as it was the first nation that discovered oil under its land in the 1930s, which means that this king knows all of the royal families throughout the Middle East. We can only imagine that he may be very interested in showing these books to his royal kingly friends. And what could happen at that point, only you know, Srila Prabhupada. Of course, on the other side, all of our services sometimes have difficulties and times that require a tolerance that may seem to be beyond our ability to manifest. But whenever we are blessed by you to think of what you went through, Srila Prabhupada, simply tolerating us, what to speak of your, quote, sweating blood to create and so quickly grow your wonderful ISKCON and BBT, I think this perspective brings us back to reality once again, and with new purpose to give our lives to serve your ever-sweet lotus feet. All glories to you, Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai Prabhu, thank you. Our next speaker will be Mother Nandini Radha. Actually, she's going to show a video. Oh, you want to wait then? Okay. So, are you ready, Maheshwar? Yeah, okay. So next speaker will be Maheshwar Prabhu, disciple of Srila Prabhupada since 1974, and preaches in Ojai for 30-something years, 40 years. Had a lot of association with Jayananda, and very prolific.
Namo Vishnu Vidaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namne Namaste Saraswati Devan Gaudavade Pacharane Nivishesha Sunyavati Pashkata Desh Tarane. So as Prabhupada just said, I've been in Ojai for almost 40 years actually. And I knew when I went to Ojai, if we wanted to have devotee association, we'd have to find the devotees. And I thought, well, Ojai is kind of like, I think of it now as New Sedona, or I should say California version of Sedona. There's every New Age group in the world up there. And I thought, oh, this would be great preaching grounds. Well, actually, after about 25 years of trying to penetrate all the New Age stuff, I realized that they have absolutely no ability to understand anything about Krishna consciousness. They get buried in all these other philosophies. And yeah, a few finally break through. But so I realized that maybe I should actually go to people who are pious. So that meant adopting what I had learned from Srila Prabhupada, that well, the wonderful thing about Krishna consciousness is that you can go to any temple, mosque, sweat lodge, and appreciate that these people are reaching out to God the way that they have been taught or understood. In fact, I believe in the beginning of the Krishna book, George Harrison makes a comment like that. He says, everybody's looking for Krishna, they just don't really know where or how to find him. So, and the wonderful thing about our philosophy is that we can apply it anywhere and we have absolutely nothing to fear. Because if you have the best tool, you don't have to worry about it failing you when you need it. So in this mood, I've been the last year or two, Bhadrani and I have both been doing it. We've been going to every possible religious experience that we can find and get our hands on. Which means the whole spectrum of churches, synagogues, mosques, anything that we can find where people are actually, they've realized, unlike the New Age, which wants to try to create God on, heaven on earth without God, that at least if they're following Christianity or even Islam or the Jewish people, they realize they need something, and so they're at least surrendering to that. So interestingly enough, yesterday, very early in the morning, I went to a men's Bible study where there was about 35 some odd people there. And one of the things that I've noticed, which you won't find surprising, is that when you go to churches, they really like praying. They're always praying. They pray before this, they pray before that. They're doing all this praying all the time, you know. And when they pray, they usually have an agenda, and it's something like, you know, help me get healed, help my grandmother get healed, help me get a job, help me. I actually went to one organization where the guy was saying, well, I just put a down payment on my car. I have no idea where my next payment's going to come from, but I'm praying that God will help me find it. So they're always praying. And I was thinking to myself, we don't do that so much in Krishna consciousness. You don't see devotees standing around, you know, putting hands on each other and doing this sort of thing. And so they did this yesterday, and they went through this whole litany of making these requests. And then I realized that actually we do pray all the time. We just have the ultimate, you can think of it as the Swiss Army knife of prayers. It's called the Hare Krishna mantra. And the wonderful thing about the Hare Krishna mantra is you can use it for everything. You know, if you're distressed, you go, oh, Krishna, Hare Krishna. And if you're happy, Hare Krishna. You know, if you're trying to get somebody's attention, hey, Hare Krishna over there. You know, and if you're saying goodbye, you go, hey, Hare Krishna, see you later. It's like we're saying it all the time. And the beautiful thing about the Hare Krishna mantra is that in essence, and I share this with people, and I'm slowly penetrating these different groups, the thing is, it's really the most advanced and elevated prayer you could possibly have. Because it's just simply saying, Krishna, if you think I am qualified, if I've done anything to please you, then allow me to engage in your devotional service. And that's the highest prayer you can give. We know you don't. We're not looking. You know, the thing is we're very confident that Krishna is in charge of everything all the time. We don't need to be telling him our wish list. He knows what we need. He knows what needs to be done, and he's on top of it. And that's what faith in Krishna means. You don't have to be going down your list of anxieties and everything. Just Krishna, if you feel that I'm qualified, if I've done anything, please allow me to engage in your service. So when you hear the Hare Krishna mantra, and it's like I said, it's used in every possible content, that's a prayer. And I think of it now, I had this realization, I said, we got the Swiss Army knife of prayers and the ultimate tool. It covers everything. And that's my appreciation for Srila Prabhupada, and it's the essence of our whole movement. So thank you very much.
Haribol, thank you. So Mother Nandini Radha would like to share this video with us. You can see the title on the screen there, Srila Prabhupada's Unparalleled Achievements. So.
Lotus eyes soothing my broken heart, you rescue me from my endless pain. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Vande Guru Shri Charana Vindam, Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Gangara Parasha. Pashtate Bhavandar Shane Pavitra Koro Ei Tumara Gun Srila Prabhupada Patita Pavan. Param Guru gave books to cure me of diseases that come with this age. Goloka full of spiritual pleasure, he revealed on every page. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Vande Guru Shri Charana Vindam, Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jahanika Tekele Baba, Ture Joye Mona Doya Prana, Prabhu Keva Kota Prabha, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. My dear grandfather, spiritual master, unto you I most humbly pray, that this serpent-like knowledge Shri Charanarvindam. Jaya Srila Prabhupada. Hadistani Ambara Ditare. Harinam Tamastane. Aparnati Nahi Paricham. Srila Prabhupada Patita Baba. Lotus feet giving me such shelter. Lotus hands brush my tears away. Lotus eyes soothing my broken heart. You rescue me from my endless pain. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam. Jaya Srila Prabhupada. Gangara Parashahoile. Paschate Pavandarshane. Pavitra Koro Ei Tumara Gun. Srila Prabhupada Patita Pavan. Param Guru gave books to cure me of diseases that come with this age. Goloka full of spiritual pleasure, he revealed on every page. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam. Jaya Srila Prabhupada. Jaharadika Tekile Baba. Ture Joye Mona Doya Prana. Prabhu Keva Kota Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. My dear grandfather, spiritual master, unto you I most humbly pray that this serpent-like non-devotee in the dust of your feet will stay. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam. Jaya Srila Prabhupada. Hadistani Ambara Ditare. Harinam Tamastane. Aparnati Nahi Paricham. Srila Prabhupada Patita Baba.
Right, thank you. So, Mahashakti Prabhu.
Thank you, Nandini Radha. That was really nice. That was Partrikananda Prabhu. When I wasn't expecting that. That was so nice. He's in Alachua right now, and that was he's so devoted to Srila Prabhupada. He writes things like that. He does so many nice things for the movement. At one point, he was concerned with departing Vaishnavas. Anytime someone departed, we had a screen in here, and he would go over that devotee's qualities and what they were like. I mean, he just does so many wonderful things like that. Thank you for that. It was so beautiful. Huh? Haribol. This has been such an ecstatic day today. All these beautiful devotees glorifying Srila Prabhupada. It just gets better and better. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devam Gauravani Pracharane Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskyat Shade Shatarane. Dearest Srila Prabhupada, thank you for coming to America. Thank you for destroying the prevailing mood of voidism and impersonalism. All these yogis and gurus from India were teaching us, I am God, you are God, everyone is God. We were young hippies trying to understand God by taking mind-altering drugs, listening to rock music and having sex orgies. Turn on, tune in, drop out was the creed we lived by. No rules, no regulations, do as you please, feel free. Late 60s America had grown into a cultural revolution. The men had grown their hair and beards, women were scantily dressed, the Vietnam War was wildly unpopular, and protests were happening on dozens of college campuses. These were turbulent and raucous times, not an inviting environment for a pure devotee to launch his bhakti yoga teachings. Who would accept that God is a transcendental person and that we were his servants? Surrender everything to God? Follow rules and regulations, cut your hair, rise early? No one from India dared attempt to go to America to preach. No one except you. While others saw obstacles, you saw a ripe young audience for your transcendental message. None of your God brothers had the deep understanding of Shastra the way you did. To come to America to preach required a person with superhuman abilities, a sensitivity that no mortal man could possess, a tolerance and patience that no one had ever witnessed, and a message of divine understanding that drove straight to our hearts with the veracity of a lion and the speed of a jaguar. We were young boys and girls in the prime of our youth, hearing you for the first time from your Vyasa sign, telling us over and over, Aham Brahmasmi, you're not that body. I was hoping to hear more hippie-like jargon like love, love, love. Srila Prabhupada, whatever you said, even though contrary to our thinking, was readily accepted by us because you had a charm that was irresistible. Without exception, we all fell in love with you. Tears would fall from our eyes whenever we saw you. Our devotion grew so quickly it was astounding. We went from wild hippie to Pukka Vaishnavas overnight. Your godbrothers could not believe it when you brought some of your earliest disciples to India. The transformation was extraordinary. And still, as young Vaishnavas, we could not keep up with your plans of expansion and publishing of books. Every single moment of your time was used for preaching Krishna consciousness. One moment you were a visionary, telling your newly minted sannyasis to go to South America to preach, or to the Muslim Middle East or China. The next moment you were responding to a letter, encouraging a couple not to fight, or giving instruction to an artist or a pujari or a proofreader. Srila Prabhupada, you never avoided any situation. You met everything head on with strength, conviction, care, and guidance. Then, just at your peak, when the world had finally taken notice of the Hare Krishnas, when temples were flourishing and new bhaktas were begging for initiation, you left us. And when you left us, we were speechless, lost. It can only be compared to the time Lord Krishna left Vrindavan for Dwarka. The residents were practically unconscious from feelings of separation. There was no escaping the fact that the sun had set and a Brahma's night of darkness was now upon us. Would we survive without you? Against impossible odds, we came together with one mission. We must continue your legacy. Your books will guide us. So we continued the movement you started. We strive not to change anything. We adhered to what you gave us. We made mistakes, but they were slowly rectified. The GBC remained intact. New gurus took the strictest loyalty oaths on your behalf. They started initiating first hundreds, then thousands, then tens of thousands, and now hundreds of thousands of new disciples. It is incredibly beautiful to see their enthusiasm. And when I do, it brings tremendous solace, knowing that you are present, always looking after your beautiful ISKCON. All glories to the greatest proponent of Krishna consciousness, to the spiritual teacher that changed the world. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Haribol. Yeah. Thank you, Prabhu. So, Mother Sundari Shakti? Yeah.
Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharne Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyata Desha Tarine. Hare Krishna. Thank you to Bhrigupati Prabhu. I'm sitting here. I came for darshan. He came to me, said, would you like to speak? I have no prepared speech. I apologize for that. But there is definitely magic which shall be revealed. There's so much we can thank Prabhupada, so much. It's unlimited. But if I would want to pick 3 things today, Prabhupada, it would be temple, Sanatana Dharma through your books, and that you brought Rath Yatra across the world. But even before those 3 points, I'd say magic. You give us magic every single day, and I have no freaking clue how you do that. I'm mesmerized by your ability to give each one of us magic every single day. And you made it happen yet again right now. Because when I sat here, I was, first of all, just goosebumpy listening to everybody. And as I listened to everybody, I was like, what am I going to say? Oh, and you know what? My 2 sons, Iraj and Nimai, wouldn't it be nice if they could hear me for whatever little I fumbled to say here? Right before I'm about to speak, they come and enter the temple. No phone calls, no messages, some magic. It was my turn. Somehow 1 or 2 speakers came up. Bhrigupati Prabhu said, you're next. And then after that, a couple other Prabhu's Mataji spoke, so it gave some more time. But interestingly enough, while that time lapse happened, Iraj Kumar just comes in, Mommy, and he's taking my permission to go hang out with his friends some more, whatever. And I said, hold on, just sit here for a minute. And then Nimai comes, and I'm like, just sit here. And you know what? Prabhupada had to do that because he just always does that. And however, I just am very grateful because I've seen that magic roll for me all the time. So when I was a child, I would go to, growing up in India, you go to every temple, but I went often to our Chapadi temple, Juhu temple, and those were just beautiful times. Then I didn't even know that Radhanath Maharaj will become my Guru Maharaj, but I would hear his voice, and I'll tell you when I recognize, and even Giriraj Maharaj. And as a little girl, I actually thought Prabhupada sitting there. I thought that's the real Prabhupada. Like I thought that's Prabhupada sitting there. Only later that disappointment came when I came to know, oh, it's his murti. He wasn't really. But you know, the irony is that he's actually sitting here with us. I still believe that. Because no matter which temple of ours I go to, Prabhupada's sitting right there. And to me, to this day, I rekindle that same feeling that Prabhupada is literally sitting here, and he is. So there's no difference between his murti and his energy. He just allows us to soak in that. So Prabhupada, when I first came to America, I felt uncomfortable because I'm like, temple, like how am I going to exist here without a temple? And I'm Googling, and I see Laguna Beach Temple, and I wasn't driving. My then Prabhu Kishore Das, I said, I need to go here. And he's practicing Zoroastrian. He's a Persian Zoroastrian following person. And I'm his newlywed, so he's like, okay, I'll drop you there. He drops me at the temple, and he doesn't even enter. I go in, and I'm like, 7. This is amazing. And that was the first time I realized that, wait, outside of India, there are amazing temples just the same. But then later it's like, wait, it's reverse. Prabhupada started here and gifted it back to India. So that's just so much rasa there when you enter the temple. It's just, you feel at home. Like, how did he do that? Every temple across the globe, you go in, there's just feeling. Thank you so much, Prabhupada. What would we do without these amazing establishments that you've created with your sweat, blood, and tears? You're, to me, more than a Brahman, you're a Kshatriya. I don't know why, I just relate. He just knew when to hit someone with a stick, and he knew when to just give mercy. And a true warrior, his or her heart is just full of love and compassion, but they know when to get the stick out. He was not complacent, never. But sometimes his mercy was very different, sometimes very different. And I can go on, even though I have no prepared speech, he's just doing that magic and he's allowing me to go and go and go. But I'm going to stop with the temple there. The next one is, I would love to talk more. It just feels so beautiful to be here in all of your presence and this beautiful energy that I'm experiencing. So the second thing, Prabhupada, respecting everyone's time, is your Sanatan Dharma. You brought Sanatan Dharma to the world. And I don't say to the West only. You also brought it to India. We all know why I'm saying that. You tirelessly translated to English, English being the predominant language. And of course, you listened to your Guru Maharaj's instructions. And you showed us what that kind of dedication means. If we feel lazy, we just know how to look at you and feel re-inspired, reinvigorated, that we just have to keep doing our best. Because you did it. You walked your talk. Most people talk. They don't do what they say. You always walk your talk. That's why you're so special. And you brought the power of Sanatan Dharma in its truest form, literally to every town. I don't know village yet or not, but very soon it will be town and village. And I'm so grateful for that. And the third thing is, we just had our Rath Yatra, right? It's the most magical festival when you allow what happens in just one place in India. Now it's happening in all cities in India. It's happening across the globe, where we allow to flaunt our deities and allow the causeless mercy of our deities to shine, and so many people see that, they get the mercy. It's just magical. So thank you so much, and I am so grateful. And regarding my service, in the same magical way, you keep allowing me to do a little more, in this way and that way, and you always keep me inspired. Thank you so much. I am very grateful, and I hope I can do justice to this life, and I can serve as much. Please keep me empowered as your servant in your mercy. Allow me to stay evolving in my sadhana, and I am so grateful for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mata. Our next speaker is Nishringananda Prabhu, one of the forefathers by TV and early disciple of Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. I was reminded by our previous speaker, and those that say and have criticized that, oh, ISKCON's become Indianized and Hindu, it's just a Hindu organization now. Obviously they haven't met devotees like your good self. What's your name? Yeah. And Mataji. And I often tell people who bring this fact up and think that there's some downside to it, I say, well, Srila Prabhupada was an Indian. So, you know, we're very fortunate to have the support of any Vaishnav. And I feel like Srila Prabhupada's recognition in India and in the world is increasing in an exponential way. He's been recognized from a person who wrote to Gandhi and never got a response, and to Shastri who never got a response, to the President of India. We've seen Modi put a garland on numerous occasions around Srila Prabhupada's neck and recognize him in so many ways. And it will only continue to grow, where Prabhupada will be recognized as the greatest exponent of spiritual life for the whole planet in due course of time. And we're very fortunate to be in on the early stages. We are still all pioneers in spreading the glories of the holy name. So, if you'll indulge me, I'll read my Vyasa-Puja offering. I called it Staying Power. Dear Srila Prabhupada, Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nite Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharne Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatadesha Tarane. Among all kinds of killers, time is the ultimate because time kills everything. Bhagavad Gita 10:33. Eternal time is chasing the living entities, although it's imperceptible to them. Srimad Bhagavatam 3:32-37. One cannot calculate the amount of loss there is in wasting valuable time, either materially or spiritually. One should be very alert in utilizing the time which he has at his disposal. Srimad Bhagavatam 2:7-15. Inexhaustible time, stronger than the strong, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself. Like a herdsman moving his animals along, He moves mortal creatures as His pastime. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:51. The Blessed Lord said, Time I am, destroyer of the worlds, and I've come to engage all people. With the exception of you, the Pandavas, all the soldiers on both sides will be slain. Bhagavad Gita 11:32. So the clock is running out on this body of mine as well. At least I claim it as mine under the illusion of Maya. Actually, it's always been yours. I am lost in my identification of me and mine. Intellectually, I know that everything belongs to Krishna. To understand one's actual position as the eternal servitor of Krishna without falsely claiming this material body to be oneself, and without falsely claiming proprietorship over anything in the world, is the perfect stage of Krishna consciousness. Purport Bhagavad Gita 2:7-1. Understand, to comprehend, wrap one's mind around, grasp, master, divine. There are so many levels of understanding. How was I, an existential disaster who saw only meaningless and voidism in my world,
going to understand nothing. I was the butt of the joke about Sadhu who went to the hamburger shop and ordered one with everything. I could not see a way out of the abyss. And then something happened. You, my Guru Dev, was the instrument of divine intervention. In a moment, time stopped. The world was no longer spinning a web of fiction. You appeared. Without appearing like Krishna, who is the completeness of the complete. Om Purnamahara Purnamidam Purnat Purnam Udichyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Ivishvashyate. The personality of Godhead is perfect and complete, and because he's completely perfect, all emanations from him, such as the phenomenal world, are perfectly equipped as complete wholes. Whatever is produced to the complete whole is also complete in itself, because he is the complete whole. Even though so many complete units emanate from him, he remains the complete balance. Srila Prabhupada, your inconceivable mercy allowed entrance to understanding. In startlingly plain language and logic, it chalked out the path to Krishna Prem. You matter-of-factly revealed that Krishna himself promises to those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. Bhagavad Gita 10:10. Srila Prabhupada, you are the messenger of that promise, a hope that still burns in my heart. It is an optimistic expectation of a brighter future, more brilliant than 1,000 suns. It is an exit path through the maze and a door out of the material labyrinth. It is a goal. It is here now, but covered. It is magical, delicious, sublime. No psychedelic or endorphins can match its splendor. It is Achinta, Beta Beta Tattva. It is the wow in the wow factor. You turned on the power to the grid of this dark world. In all the millions of births which I have suffered, you unlocked the cycle of birth and death as easily as a magician produces a bird from an empty hand. You didn't come with dry philosophy or syrupy sentiments. Your hands were busy writing, cooking, chanting. Your renunciation was not half-baked, as you explained to us the road to full understanding. Renunciation without Krishna consciousness is incomplete, as it is confirmed by Srila Rupa Goswami in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 12258. When persons appear to achieve liberation, renounce things related to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, thinking them to be material, their renunciation is called incomplete. Renunciation is complete when it is in the knowledge that everything in existence belongs to the Lord and no one should claim proprietorship over anything. One should understand that, factually. Nothing belongs to anyone. And then, where is the question of renunciation? One who knows that everything is Krishna's property is always situated in renunciation. And since everything belongs to Krishna, everything should be employed in Krishna's service. This perfect form of action is Krishna consciousness, and a far better than any amount of artificial renunciation by a sannyasi of the Mayavad school. Purport 5.2. Srila Prabhupada, your birth immediately follows the appearance of Lord Krishna. Is it any accident? No. It is divinely arranged that your appearance is as good as God's, and that Krishna comes paritranaya sudanam, vinasya chadushkritam, dharma samastam padnatasyam, bhavani yuge yuge, in order to deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants, as well as to reestablish the principles of religion, I invent myself millennium after millennium. And in your synonyms, you translate pious as of the devotees, because you see everyone as devotee of Krishna. Some know it, and some serve him directly. The vast majority in this age don't know it and serve as material energy. Yet the humble sage, by virtue of true knowledge, sees with equal vision a learned and gentle Brahmin, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog-eater, an outcast. You, Srila Prabhupada, are that humble sage that sees the devotee within all living entities. You are that alchemist that turns lead into gold. You are that eternal friend who returns lifetime after lifetime to deliver the fallen. You are the most magnanimous, compassionate, and dedicated servant of the servant. You are the real guru, the Jagat Guru. And you continue to distribute the mercy of Guru and Gauranga throughout this world. My humble obeisances unto you for having touched me and so many in the real revolution that has permanent value and puts the one in front of all the zeros. Time may be running out for me in this life, but you will forever be appearing like Krishna avatars to save the devotees. I pray for your continued mercy. Gurudev ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hari Bol. Thank you.
So my name is Bhargava. I was a BBT photographer. Therefore, I had the gimmick to track Prabhupada all over the world, in Africa, in India, Europe. And the thing he wanted for everyone is to develop love for Krishna. And his brilliance was he brought the source literature. Some gurus would hang shlokas or stories like a worm on a hook to attract followers. Prabhupada gave the source literature. Here it is, the Bhagavatam, the Bhagavad Gita, Ishopanishad, Nectar of Devotion. So Prabhupada was totally genuine. And he was heavy with his disciples. We tend to look to managers as being more advanced, and that ain't necessarily so. And we were in Paris, and there was a very small temple in Fontelio Roses, and a couple of the GBCs were there. I was there with my camera in Prabhupada's tiny little room. And then he said, if you don't follow, then all you have is the trouble you went through to get the knowledge. He said, Prabhupada was heavy. He wasn't trying to flatter us. And we were on a walk in another year in Paris. And Prabhupada turned and faced the devotees and he said, I want you to all become Krishna conscious philosophers and defeat these rascal scientists and philosophers. And he pushed heavy. And at the same time, he could be very light. Because the early devotees, we were caught between two cultures. We were agitated by, our senses were agitated by everything in the Western culture. We were young, and the sexual energy was very strong in us, so we were pushed pretty hard. And I remember I went to Prabhupada one time, even though I was a brahmachari, and didn't think I could handle that life, and he was very kind to me and very encouraging. And then another time he gave me an instruction. I've said this before, he could see into my future. And I was following strictly at the time. I was a good brahmachari. And he told me, and I told him that brain is starting to go. Don't get old. That's my best advice anyway. I got accused of something that wasn't true by someone who had a very strong, authoritative opinion. That's for them. Anyway, so I felt guilty and I brought it up to Prabhupada. And I said, Prabhupada, sometimes I preach nicely, sometimes I don't. And if the person's sincere, will they still come to Krishna? It was kind of an idiot question. But Prabhupada said yes. And then he went to a deeper level and he said, he gave the simile about the pond. So when the pond water becomes agitated, the sand comes up and the water becomes cloudy. So when the senses become agitated, the mind and the intelligence becomes clouded. And then he went deeper. And he said, so there are two kinds of cities. He said, someone follows all the rules and regulations of devotional service. With the aim of pleasing Krishna, he may become perfect. By the mercy of Krishna, he may become perfect. And he said, sometimes someone's not able to follow all the rules and regulations of devotional service, but he has an overwhelming desire to perform some great service for Krishna. So by the mercy of Krishna, he may also become perfect. And he gave the example of Clive of India. Clive came to India as a ship's cabin boy with the British East India Company, the biggest pirate organization the world has ever seen. And he became very influential in bringing big parts of India under the control of the British East India Company. And for that, he was made a lord. And this was a material example of someone wanting to do something great. Although it was a material example, the guy ended up dying of syphilis. But he took his wife's necklace off in Kanchipuram and offered it to the deity. So no service goes unappreciated by Krishna. So I'll give one last thing, and it's a meditation by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Love Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and he's an example. He died in 1914, and we can still get inspiration from those who are not physically present. Bhaktivinoda said, every day you should feel your love for God is growing, your love for Krishna is growing, and if you don't feel it, do an introspective search and try to figure out what offense or neglect you've done that stopped the growth of love for God, and correct it to the point that you feel that love is growing again. So it's a living thing. The Guru gives the seed of love for God, and we have to water it with holy name and hearing pastimes, and we have to guard against the weeds of neglect and offenses, especially offenses to other devotees. And when he said one day it'll grow and it'll wrap around the feet of Radha and Krishna, that plant, that devotional plant. So I'll be there in the evening I have lots more pastimes. Wisdom. I like to pass the wisdom on rather than the personal stuff that I got from Prabhupada. So I'll try to pass it on. And I'm putting my god brother in anxiety. He said 5 minutes, but I'm greedy. Anyway, thanks for listening.
So Siddhanta's got another video for us.
Hare Krishna. So we'll do the... Hare Krishna, all glory to Srila Prabhupada. So this will be the second collection of memories from the memory series, collections from almost 500 disciples that had personal experience with Srila Prabhupada. And these are selections that are in reference to Srila Prabhupada's qualities. Yeah. And we'll need a microphone. Good to see you. So I want to thank everybody for sharing today. Beautiful stories. A lot to focus on and have reflections on. Keep Prabhupada in the center. Srila Prabhupada was once asked in Mexico City, and I'm getting the signal here to hurry up, that a lady in the audience asked Srila Prabhupada, it says in the Bhagavad Gita that if we think of Krishna at the time of death, we'll go back to him. Yes. What will happen if I think of you at the time of death? Will that have the same effect? Srila Prabhupada paused a moment and said, yes, that is very nice. So with that in mind, all these memories of Prabhupada that help us focus on him, to remember him, are transcribed in 6 volumes now, working on the 7th. Today, I only have 3 sets left. If you buy one for $20, the last one, volume 6, you get the other 2 free. So it's a heck of a deal. 3 left. So come and see me in the back afterwards. So can someone in the temple room who knows how to work the lights, please turn the lights off? Do we have a volunteer? Someone's coming?
I remember also walking on the beach. One day he was walking along and a wave that was particularly big broke and came up and he had to jump and dance out of the way. And I said, Srila Prabhupada, even the ocean wants to touch your lotus feet. And he laughed, and I don't remember his exact words, but it was very, very humble. He took that glory that had been given to him and turned it to Krishna. I saw him do that so many times. A couple of times in the temple in Los Angeles. Once on his birthday, he came in from his morning walk and walked in, paid his obeisances to the deities, and went and sat on the Vyasa-san, and one by one the devotees spoke about the glories of Prabhupada. And of course everyone was speaking how he had saved their lives and how he was saving the world by bringing Krishna consciousness. And he just listened, he accepted with his eyes closed. He was just listening. And then when the last person had spoken and Prabhupada was going to speak, it was a very long silence. He was very quiet for a long time. And you could have heard a pin drop. And you could see the ecstatic symptoms in his body that he was not allowing to fully manifest. But there was some tears coming and he was shivering. And he said, I thank you, when he finally spoke, he said, I thank you all so much for your praise and how much you show your love for me. He said, but truly I have to say that I am just the servant of my beloved Guru Maharaj, and all this is happening by his grace. I am simply his servant, and I'm trying to do what he asked me to do. And it is his grace that is allowing this to happen. And then he stopped, and there was more tears. And then he said, and actually, all of you are my gurus. He said, my Guru Maharaj has given me this service to do, and I came here with very little, and it is because of you that this is going on. So I offer you my respects. as my gurus. I think that the times that I had some of the most interesting interactions with Prabhupada was in airports. Not so much when he would arrive, although sometimes, but when he was leaving, because then it was more casual. There weren't a lot of ceremonies, and you could sit and talk to him. This was a New York airport, and at those days, Prabhupada was leaving, and the security wasn't like it was now, but still, a whole lot of devotees would follow him into the airport. And it was casual, and you could talk to him. It was more intimate. It wasn't a big ceremony, because a lot of times we came to the airport, we'd do an arti, Guru Puja right there. So it was very packed in the boarding area. And I could see that there were passengers who were booked for that plane. They couldn't get in. And I could see the gate agents or whatever, the airport people, trying to get devotees to leave so the passengers could get in. Everybody were absorbed in Prabhupada. Everybody just sort of ignoring them, And so I didn't know what to do. I thought this was not good for us to do like that. So I went to Rupanuga, who's still my GBC, and I said to him, look, there's a problem because we filled up the boarding area. And so Rupanuga tried to get people to leave, and everybody was blowing him off because Prabhupada is talking with the people around him and stuff like that. So finally Rupanuga jumps up on a chair, and he goes like this makes a megaphone with his mouth, and he says, all devotees, leave the boarding area at once. All devotees, get out. And before anybody could move, they were looking up in shock. Before anybody else could move, Prabhupada was up and getting out, walking out. And Rupanuga started to laugh. He says, not you, Srila Prabhupada. So these are the kind of things that would happen there in the airport. What you saw when Prabhupada did that was this kind of humility. He wasn't outraged. He wasn't mad that somebody. He just was. That's what the authorities said, and he just was going to do it.
In June '68, we had gone to a high school engagement in a Christian school. It was a school for girls, and there were many nuns in the school. And this program was arranged by a French-Canadian devotee called Janardhan Prabhu. He was doing his PhD at that time. So Prabhupada gave the lecture, and as usual after Prabhupada's lecture he would say, any questions? The same Mr. Mukherjee, who had told me that Prabhupada was a different type of saint, got up from his chair and started attacking Prabhupada. He started saying, why do you have to come and preach this philosophy in these Christian countries? They have their own philosophy. You don't need to do this. The devotees were very upset in the way he was being attacked. Prabhupada was not being criticized by the Christian nuns. He was being criticized by one of the people who came in his entourage. So the devotees were very upset, and Prabhupada was very cool. In August, Prabhupada was leaving Montreal to go to America. And he told me, Gopal, go and call that Mr. Mukherjee. I said, Prabhupada, he insulted you so badly. Why do you want to see him? And Prabhupada said, I must have done something to him in my last life for which he took revenge. So I called this gentleman, and Prabhupada blessed him before leaving. So from this we can see how magnanimous and merciful Prabhupada was. And even though this man had humiliated Prabhupada, he really attacked Prabhupada very badly. Prabhupada tolerated it, did not utter one word, and in fact he blessed him before leaving. So So I think from this example, we should draw inspiration and not retaliate the moment somebody criticizes us. We have to learn to practice Nanapi Sanichena.
So Guru Kripa started a kirtan. And the conch shell blew, and the artik started. And after the ghee lamp was offered, I took it, and for some unknown reason, I went around to all the devotees first and to Srila Prabhupada last. Srila Prabhupada didn't seem disturbed. He was absorbed in chanting the holy name. Guru Kripa was leading. It was very lively, very energetic, lots of dancing. And he was sitting on the Vyasa-san we had located there. And he simply took his hands and put them to his head and folded his hands like in appreciation for me offering that to him. So the arti continued, and after the ghee lamp, the water was offered to the Gornitai deities we had there. And after it was offered to the deities, I took the pujari handed me the water, and I followed suit as what I had previously done. I went to all the devotees first, and then I went up to Srila Prabhupada last and sprinkled water on his head very respectfully. And he bowed his head, giving me he appreciated how I had offered him the water. So the kirtan continued, devotees were dancing, and then the handkerchief, and then the flowers, and the pujari offered me the flowers. I went through all the devotees first, and then I went to Srila Prabhupada last, and Srila Prabhupada bent down and smelled the flowers and gave me a big smile. So I had been there for about 2 weeks, and I had been through this procedure previously, and I'd done it properly, and I don't know why I acted like I did in Srila Prabhupada's presence. It wasn't it was totally unintentional. And I remember thinking in my mind, like when you take a meal, you save the dessert for last. So I was thinking, out of respect for Srila Prabhupada, he's the best. I will give it to him last. And the quality of Srila Prabhupada I get from this is his utmost humility. He wasn't thinking he's, such a big devotee, and why are you giving it to all the other devotees first and me last? There was no struggle in his face, like he was disturbed or upset with me. And he did it 3 times. Usually if you do something like that 3 times, someone would be a little upset with you. But he didn't say anything to anybody. Of course, afterwards other people said things to me, but Srila Prabhupada, I never heard said anything to anybody else. And so now, 40 years later, here I am in Mayapur, and I'm a senior Prabhupada disciple, and sometimes the ghee lamp comes around, and I remember that, and if it doesn't come to me before someone doing it in person, remember how Srila Prabhupada acted and struggle with my mind to counteract the pride that I have of thinking that I'm senior and I deserve the respect and the honor and the the first touch of the ghee-lamp, so to speak, like that.
It's Guru Puja time in Bombay Temple, and the temple, the deities had not yet gone over into the big temple. It was still under construction. So it's a Quonset hut, and there's a chipped marble floor, and then Prabhupada had that Vyasa with the big round Vyasa. Anyway, there's my golden opportunity. It's Guru Puja. I'm in this line, and I've got my flowers, and I get to worship Prabhupada personally. Try that in LA, right? I'm just a rank and filer. So here, and that's one glory of India, was that you did get an opportunity to associate with Prabhupada more intimately. So anyway, I'm standing in line, and I'm thinking in my mind, when I get up to Prabhupada, I said, wow. When I get up to Prabhupada, he's going to manifest himself as this, like he is in LA. How I always pictured him, my commander-in-chief, my Lord and Master, the Supreme Personality of Servitor Godhead, Prabhupada. And I will offer my flowers. And so it goes like this, a couple minutes. Finally, it's my turn. And when I get to him, this is how he manifested himself. The most humble person. It struck me that he doesn't want anything from me. In the material world, that's one reason I became a devotee, really, is that I realized nobody loves me. If I got something, if I got some pot, then there we are at my house, or something, you know what I mean? And it was so frustrating. But here, Prabhupada, he doesn't want anything from you. And according to the 26 qualities, does not desire respect for himself. And that was, he manifested that. And also, it made me want to worship him all the more, because he's worshipable.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyadi Pastatade Satarine Om Gyanam Timirandasya Gyananjana Salakya Chakshur Unvitamina Tasmai Shri Guru Namah. I would like to start by thanking all the Prabhupada disciples, because what you're sharing with us are windows of your personal relationships with His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Unfortunately, I am a second generation, so we will only serve Srila Prabhupada in eternal separation. We will never serve Srila Prabhupada in person. But through these realizations that we are listening, and through the dedication of Prabhu here to collect all these memories for generations to come, we can at least be able to see the potency of Srila Prabhupada. I will speak about Srila Prabhupada from the angle of a CEO. We know that Srila Prabhupada is our spiritual leader. We know about that. But what do leaders do? What do CEOs do? one of the qualities that a CEO does is he changes the paradigm, or she changes the paradigm. So what did Srila Prabhupada do? He actually changed the paradigm of the way we thought. We were thinking we are these bodies. So the first thing Srila Prabhupada did was to teach us that we are not these bodies. So that's a change of paradigm. A CEO changes a paradigm. Srila Prabhupada is changing the paradigm of how we look at ourselves. How do we have our relationships? So I'm sitting here speaking something about glorifying a pure devotee. Are we even qualified to do that? In our fields today, whether I am a doctor, whether I'm an attorney, whether I'm an engineer, first I have to go and get that qualification before I can sit and speak on it. We are sitting and speaking here. Do we even have the qualification to do that? So this is the mercy of Patita Pavan, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He opened the doorways. But who is also more merciful than Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Srila Prabhupada. He is enabling us to speak, yet we are on the path of qualification. So this is the glories of Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada, how has he changed the paradigm? Steve Jobs is called a visionary. How is he called a visionary? Because he created the iPhone. Srila Prabhupada gave us the Maha Mantra. He gave us the Japa beads to speak directly with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We are only thinking about our iPhones, which is only a material connection. But Srila Prabhupada gave us the Maha Mantra. Who knew about the Maha Mantra? Even today, I'm an Indian born. I didn't know anything about Maha Mantra. We know about mantras. Srila Prabhupada gave us the Maha Mantra, gave us the Japa beads. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. On the beads, we are speaking straight. Krishna is dancing on our tongue. Is that not a self-ful? So we are looking at a visionary. Look at the visionaries. What do leaders do? So I would like to say that any organization first has what is called a mission statement. Any successful organization today has a mission statement. What is our mission statement? Srila Prabhupada gave us a very clear mission statement where he said very clearly, Srila Prabhupada said, books are the basis, purity is the force, utility is the principle, and preaching is the essence. Very clearly, Srila Prabhupada has given us the motto, has given us our mission statement. And what does utility mean? Utility means that we are not wasting our time. We are using 10% of our time in Krishna consciousness. Whether it's time, whether it's wealth, whether it's our body, everything is being used. So Srila Prabhupada very explicitly gave us this. Now, not only did Srila Prabhupada give us this very clearly, if there is anything that I feel that we as the second generation will not be able to do is what Srila Prabhupada also cautioned us. He as a visionary has already given us what is expected of ISKCON. He has already laid everything. We don't need to manufacture anything. It is the way we cooperate with each other to expand the movement. If we don't cooperate with each other, we are not going to please Srila Prabhupada. That's the only thing. We just have to follow him. He has given us everything. Then I will speak to you from his vision on the TOVP because I'm on the TOVP team. I went to Hagia Sophia in Turkey because I wanted to see all these milestones or buildings that we have been told to compare with. So I went to Hagia Sophia and I arrived at Hagia Sophia. I arrived in Turkey close to midnight. And my partner is a Turkish man, American Turkish. So he told me, at 4 a.m. I'm coming to get you. So I said, I just flew a long flight. Why do I have to be up at 4 a.m., you know? It's not Mangalarti. And he said, trust me. At 4 a.m. I went to see Hagia Sophia and the Blue Mosque. As we were coming out, at 5:36, the police was starting to barricade the gates because of the visitation expectations of tourists going to see this building. Then it struck to me, Srila Prabhupada as a CEO, what was his vision? I don't know if you all know, today the TOVP has 11 million visitation, Mayapur in general. It's more than the Taj Mahal. And once the TOVP is built, the projection is going to be 60 million people. And we are already surpassing the Taj Mahal. So then I saw another vision of Srila Prabhupada. I went to St. Paul's Cathedral, again in London, just to see, because it's a comparison. And when I went there, I saw the hip-hop bus was stopping, letting everyone go and check it out and come. There was nothing happening. There was absolutely nothing happening. But it was a historic building. So what I saw is by creating this huge building, Srila Prabhupada is creating a domino effect. And what's the domino effect? That the whole world will come to see the building. And that's why it has been done marvelously. Then I also realized something about Srila Prabhupada. When Braj Vilas and I were traveling in America, we saw museums. We saw all these great museums for athletes, 10,000 square feet, 15,000 square feet. We said, who is the biggest hero in the world? It's Srila Prabhupada. So we went ahead and said, we will create a museum of 20,000 square feet. And today my plea, as I'm cutting off, is to all the Prabhupada disciples, in order to make this happen, we need artifacts. If you have items that we can place in the museum to glorify a pure devotee of the Lord, please help us with that. Hare Krishna.
Hare Bol. So that's the end of our homages, and I'd like to thank all our speakers and apologize to anybody who wanted to speak but didn't get an opportunity. And the next part of our program will be Pushpanjali to Srila Prabhupada, and followed by the Kirtan. Thank you. Hare Krishna.